Hey everybody, Captain Lou here with another edition of Tigers Daily, partnered up with the Fan Arch Network. Happy Wednesday, July the 29th, 2026. I hope your week is going great so far. Wow, just 3 days left in the month of July. And then we all know what comes up after that in 5 days already. That trade deadline, that dreaded day in Detroit. It's coming up on Monday, so we'll keep an eye on that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We want to take a moment now again to invite you, if you haven't already, to subscribe to our channel here on Tigers Daily. As again, we partner up with the Fan Arch Network. We give you all the updates, the good, the bad, everything in between. We talk about the latest rumors, all that and a whole lot more. I'm just a Tiger fan talking to Tiger fans, and that's what we have a lot of fun with it. So we'll read your comments. I love the interaction. Those of you that have subscribed to the channel, I say thank you so much. This has been so much fun for me. Episode 28 of Tigers Daily here today, and we've done so well with it. The response, the viewers, all of that. Even if you haven't subscribed, I say thank you for taking time out to watch the videos and comment afterwards on it. So, anyways, happy Wednesday. It's a happy day in the Tiger Clubhouse today, and then some. They snapped the 3-game skid in a big way last night at Comerica Park. 2 touchdowns and extra points, if you will, for the Tigers. 14-0 was the win over the O's. Troy Melton was the story. Well, one of the stories, the big story for the Tigers, as he went 7 innings, shutout ball, 3 hits, 5 strikeouts, a couple of walks, looked dominant for the Tigers. Now his ERA is a sterling 1.75. Boy, oh boy, what a great starter to have in your back pocket for the Tigers as they enter the stretch run. What about Eduardo Valencia? I think he might be here to stay for the rest of the year for the Tigers. We'll talk about that in a moment. 4 for 5 last night. A couple of home runs. Now I get it. The one in the 8th inning was off a Tromp. He's a infielder. He was throwing the eephus pitches in the 8th inning when it was already 12-0. But take nothing away from Valencia. He had a day. 4 for 5. Now, how about Javi Baez? Fresh off the IL, the disabled list, whatever you want to call it. He had a banner day too, as he got welcomed back big time for the Tigers. 3 out of 4 for Baez. So again, a monster day for those two at the bottom of the lineup. And it's great to see Baez in center field. Again, we'll talk about that in a moment as well. So a big win for the Tigers. Cleveland split their double dip today. Of course, they were postponed, or split it yesterday rather. They were postponed on Monday night. So they made it up in a day-night twin bill. They hung on to win the opener 6-5 against the Reds. But then last night in the nightcap, they got shut out on only 3 hits, 2-0. So with that being said, the Tigers are back only 3.5 games out of that wild card spot. I know they've got to climb over 4 teams and then the leader, but still, they're within sight. They're within striking distance, just 3.5 back as they have the finale of this 3-game set this afternoon. 1:10 first pitch. As of right now, Tarik Skubal on the mound for the Tigers. And again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. So big win for the Tigers last night. They needed it. 19 hits. It's crazy, this game of baseball. We talked about it when they played the Cubs. You know, they won the opener of that 3-game set, then got absolutely blitzed at Wrigley Field, and they came back and won the nightcap. Now, let's hope that doesn't happen this afternoon against the Orioles, but boy, you just never know when they explode. Let's see if this carries over for the Tigers this afternoon. A confidence builder. The bats have been going good for the most part for the Tigers, right? I mean, they get 5 runs Monday night against the Orioles. More often than not, that'll win you a game. But the pitching just wasn't there for the Tigers. Montero didn't have it on Monday night, neither did Hannafy. But it was a different story last night. Again, Troy Melton looked strong on the mound. He got the double plays when he needed it. And of course, he got the bats when he needed it. Detroit scored a run in every inning, all 8 innings. I can't remember the first time that's happened in that 14-0 victory. So the Tigers back in the win column with a huge win, 14-0 over Baltimore now, as they take the second game with the rubber game coming up here this afternoon against Baltimore. Well, we talked about it. Baez is back. We thought it might not be until potentially when they go out to Sacramento to take on the Athletics. Well, he got called up yesterday, and who got DFA'd? One of the clubhouse leaders. This was a tough one for the Tiger players. A little bit of a surprise here. I didn't see Jake Roberts getting DFA'd. I don't know how many of you did. Now, I know his bat just hasn't been there. He's a good clubhouse leader. I get it. But clubhouse leaders, they don't put the ball in play. He's batting 161. Now, I know a lot of times he was the catcher for Skubal, but you couldn't count on him behind the or at the plate, at the bat, I should say. Behind the plate, you could count on him, obviously. But when you're batting 161, and I don't think he was real happy with the situation with his playing time either. He's a competitor. I get it. Everybody wants to play. Everybody wants to win. But when you've got Valencia there, and he played well in his opening stint for the Tigers, this is a move that I think had to be made. I don't think there was any way that the Tigers could really get anything in return from Jake Rogers, if they traded him. But I'm still a little surprised by it. I mean, one wonders why they still have Outman on the roster. That I don't understand. I don't get that part. But anyways, Jake Rogers was DFA'd yesterday. So I don't know if he's going to clear waivers. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody picks him up. If not, he can head back to Toledo. I don't know what's in store for Rogers right now. But interestingly enough, we talk about all this noise with Tarik Skubal. Jake Rogers is the last of the 3 players that were traded to Detroit for Justin Verlander back in 2017. So kind of ironic that he goes while they're in deep discussions in Detroit. Well, they're deep decision making if they're going to trade Skubal or keep him through the end of the regular season. So Jake Rogers, we thank you for your contributions to the Tigers. And again, I know the players, it was tough. I know for a lot of them, it was a sad day for Detroit, for the players rather. But in my opinion, it was something that had to be done. What do you think? Should they have let go of Rogers? I'd be interested to see what your comments are. Again, Detroit needs the bats, especially with this shaky bullpen that the Tigers have. So they need all hands on deck. Now, again, they've got Baez back in center field. I think that's huge. Hao-Yu Lee didn't play, so he's going to get an opportunity. That's another bat that's been red hot for the Tigers. They've got some sticks now in the lineup. If Baez can keep that up, we all know that he's an above-average center fielder. He's played that in shortstop. Now with McGonigal in the lineup, this is an opportunity for Baez. Now, I could see Baez going to shortstop in some occasions and putting McGonigal at third base if Colt Keith needs a rest or whatever, if they platoon. But this is another weapon. You've got to take a guy with the stick in Valencia. He's proven he's got it. I know it's just a short sample size. I get it. But Jake Rogers is sitting at 161. I think it was time for him to go. And plus, they're both catchers. So I think that you had to do that if you're the Tigers. So as sad as I am to see Jake Rogers go, cool dude. Fun to have in a clubhouse. I think it was something that needed to be done. Now my question is, when are some of the bats from the Seawolves in Erie or potentially in Toledo coming up? I think that's all going to be wrestled with after the deadline. We'll see what happens in Detroit. Now one wonders, what's at stake for maybe somebody like Gleyber Torres? Do they keep him around? Do they trade him at the deadline? Now again, these are so many questions that we talk about with this, and we're gonna elaborate on it here in a moment. What are the Tigers going to do? We're going to ask this question every day because the deadline is looming. It's 5 days away. Are they going to be buyers or sellers? Very, very interesting. The discussion just will not go away. And then afterwards, Scott Harris is going to be second guessed until the cows come home. The only way that he'll be let off the hook, people aren't going to like him no matter what he does. And that's if the Tigers win a World Series. And I think that, that's a long shot. But that's something we could talk about down the road. Other injury news. Not so good news on both the trade front and for the Tigers, maybe in the immediate future. The tone from AJ Hinch yesterday was that Jack Flaherty might need longer than what the 10-day IL to get better with his inflammation, his injury that sidelined him. That's not good news. If they were looking to trade him, that's not a good sign for the Tigers. Obviously, being so quote-unquote damaged goods, you're not going to get a lot for Flaherty unless you can take someone to if someone will take a flyer on him. But that being said, what are you going to get in return? I'm not wanting them to trade him for a bag of balls or, a couple of bats. If you're going to trade somebody, you got to get a decent return. Now, the only reason I say that, and one of the reasons I say that, is look at last year what the Tigers did, right? At the trade deadline when they were buyers. Now, this is one thing that kind of worries me. They got Chris Paddock from the Twins, Randy Dobnak from the Twins. We saw Randy Dobnak the other day pitch against the Tigers when he was with Kansas City. Rafael Montero from the Braves. He's not here anymore. Paul Sewald. I don't know if he even pitched a game for the Tigers last year. Kyle Finnegan he's still on the roster. He was probably the best pickup they got. Then he got injured. That's just his bad luck. Cody Hewer. Does anybody know where he's at? Then, of course, Charlie Morton. I think he had one, maybe two good starts for the Tigers. Then he got injured. He came back late in the year, but just was non-existent. It looked like a good trade because he was doing decently for the Braves. Finnegan, I thought, was a great pickup. The reason I'm bringing that up is if Detroit's going to be sellers, or I beg your pardon, buyers or sellers, let's just say they are going to be sellers. They got to get something in return at least. I'm not wanting to trade Flaherty just for the sake of getting rid of him. A player to be named later, I hate those trades. Nobody wins. I just don't like those kind of trades at all. And there are no need to be in a salary dump. I don't think. So, anyways, Flaherty's news, not so good. It looks like he may be longer than the 10-day IL for the Tigers. We'll have to keep an eye on that as well. All right. With all the talk of the trade deadline coming up, which again is in 5 days, what to do with Skubal, what to do with Mize, what to do with not Flaherty anymore, what to do with maybe Gleyber Torres, like we talked a little bit about it. This brings up the question, you see this in other sports, and I heard this morning on local radio here in the state of Michigan, and I've seen it online. Some of the personalities and some of the people online are wanting the Tigers to lose the rest of the way. They wanted them to lose last night. They want them to lose to make the decision easier to get rid of Skubal and potentially others and pretty much start over. My question to you is, and I'd love to see your response, and I'll go over the answers again tomorrow on the show. Have you ever rooted for your team to tank? You see it a lot in the NBA, so they can potentially get a better chance at the lottery. Now, this is such a unique situation because of the trade deadline. A lot of the fans and a lot of the response here on the show obviously has been for the trade Skubal. But I know that most of you, and I'd say all of you, I could pretty much guarantee the vast majority would not root for the Tigers to lose. Because this is a situation where I think even if they got rid of Skubal, they could trade him for someone that could contribute in the rotation right away. And we could talk about that, and we will talk about it here in a moment. But I heard that, and it just struck a nerve with me. Now, I'm in my 60s, and I know some of you that are watching, that have watched every day, are about in my age bracket, maybe a little bit older. We've waited long enough. We've played for the future long enough. The rebuilds, all this and all that. I mean, obviously we want our cake and eat it too. If you're going to trade Skubal, we want an everyday starter, at least one, then maybe a couple of prospects. We want somebody that can contribute right away. To me, that's the ideal trade. Will that happen? I don't know. But I will never, ever root for my team to lose, even if it does potentially benefit me next year, because next year's not given. And again, when you trade for these prospects, it all goes back to what are the odds that the prospects are going to do anything? Again, we just talked about what they traded for last year. To be honest with you, the only one that made a real difference was Finnegan, and he blew a couple of saves in that collapse Detroit had in the division last year. And and we look back at 2 years ago when they were sellers, they ended up getting a couple of people that ended up doing good for the Tigers. Detroit went on that crazy run. But I ask this question again: would you ever root for your team to tank? Are you rooting for Detroit to lose? And I was shocked at the amount of people online, and I know there's a lot of keyboard warriors out there that will vote for their team to lose. They'll just say that just to say it, because everybody, there's people out there that think Detroit, they're never happy with them. But I can't root for Detroit to lose. I want them to win the rest of their games. That's why I'm doing this. I don't understand the losing mentality. And maybe I'm wrong. I'm sure I'm wrong in some people's eyes. I just don't see how that's going to benefit Detroit. They're 3.5 games out of a wild card. They're 3.5 games out of a playoff spot. They got a chance. And if Detroit were to win out, let's say they win today and then they go to Sacramento and they sweep the Athletics. Chances are if they do that, they're going to be at worst probably 2 games out of a wild card. And who knows in the division, the way the Guardians and the White Sox are playing, or the Twins for that matter. Who knows, the Twins might even be in first place by the trade deadline. Wouldn't that throw a curveball in what their plans are? But I can't do that. I can't root for my team to lose. I've never been able to do that. The Lions, the Tigers, the Red Wings, the Pistons, whoever. I've never been able to do that. And I can't come to grips with that mentality of teams that will root for their team, or for fans that will root for their team to lose. Even if it would benefit them. In baseball, I think it's a different animal, because the percentage of the quote-unquote prospects to materialize in the big leagues, I think, is smaller than like in pro basketball or even pro football, with the opportunity to get a better pick. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in tanking, and I don't think they should. So rooting for the Tigers to lose every game to make that decision easier, to me, I just don't like that mentality. To make that decision easier, to become sellers. When, the opportunity is still there for Detroit to make some noise. I mean, right now, with that lineup, since June 1st, they've been playing wonderfully. So I don't get it. I will not do that. I will not root for the Tigers to lose. All right, that kind of helps kind of guide us in to the last topic that I want to talk about here today, and that's Tarik Skubal. Now, again, depending on when you're watching this here today, Wednesday, do you think they should have started him, or do you think they should start him, depending on when you're watching this? 1:10 first pitch. This could be the Tigers' this could be Tarik Skubal's last game as a starter in a Tigers uniform. He could be jettisoned somewhere to Milwaukee, to LA, wherever, by the trade deadline. Would you start him if you're Scott Harris and AJ Hinch? Would you want to kind of save him, to risk, the potential of an injury? I kind of touched on it yesterday. I would start him. You know what? Detroit needs him. If they're serious about winning, Detroit needs him. And I know Skubal wants to stay here for the rest of the year, and I know he wants to start tomorrow, or today rather. And then, so I would start him. What say you? Would you start Skubal today? Or if you're watching this after the game, would you have started him? Now, I know if you're watching this after the game's over, hindsight's 20/20. If Detroit gets, if they don't win today, I would start him. You've got to. Now, as far as the trade market for Skubal, I don't think what he does today, if he gets rocked or if he throws a 2-hit shutout, I don't think he's going to throw a 2-hit shutout, because the Tigers aren't going to let him throw 9 innings unless he only throws 75 pitches, which, it could happen, but I don't think it will. So either way, I don't think it's going to change his value, but I think from a Tigers perspective, they need the win. Losing those 2 games against Kansas City over the weekend, I think really pushed the envelope for the Tigers. If they were even thinking about not starting Skubal, they're going to start him. I would be shocked if they don't. Let's just say if they don't, I'll be shocked, and I'll be very disappointed. I think they need to start him. They have to, because they're still playing for something. And again, the way the American League is, it's pathetic. It's right there for the taking, a playoff spot or even the division for that matter. So, real quick, on the trade market, I think the number one target, or the number one team, in my opinion, that's going after him right now, to me, it's between the Dodgers and the Brewers. And I think you could see the Brewers stepping up to the plate to do it. And the one that I think that they should go after, to me, is Logan Henderson. I think he's the top of the list. Now, there's a rumor that he's one of the players they're dangling, or the potential target, besides two prospects, two infield and outfield prospects. But Logan Henderson, with 8 starts, he's got an ERA of 3.05 for the Brewers, a WHIP of .94. His record is 4-1 in those 8 starts. So he would be an everyday starter for the Tigers. They could put him right in to the starting rotation, and they get 2 top prospects as well. That trade I would do if I was Scott Harris and I was the GM of the Tigers. As much as I hate to get rid of Skubal, I think this is the kind of trade that Detroit, I'm not saying Henderson is Skubal. Nobody's saying that. But I think the way the American League is right now, Detroit's getting a ready starter, a starter that's already in the big leagues, and they get 2 prospects, 2 top prospects, throw that in. I think Detroit's got to make that move. And I think they would. I'm just guessing. But again, nobody knows right now, right? I still think there isn't going to be a move made by the Tigers with Skubal, at least until the weekend. Now, he's penciled in. I believe that Skubal is set to start for the Tigers, if I look at it right, next Wednesday. They've got a day off Thursday. They've got a day off Monday. Those are travel days out west, or going out west. Detroit goes to Sacramento to take on the A's. Then they go to Seattle. So Skubal's next start is a week from today. So, but I still think the deadline is, I think it's probably going to be Saturday or Sunday. It could be Monday, who knows? But I think the bidding war is going to be there. So going back to my question, I got 2 questions for you that I'd love to get your answer on today, and we'll go through it tomorrow on the show. Do you ever root for your team to tank? And would you pitch Skubal today against the Orioles for a chance to take the series and stay, within a better distance of the Guardians and also the White Sox in the Central Division? So, lastly, before we go here, I want to take a look at some of your comments. Yesterday, our main question was, do you think that Lou Whitaker should be in the Hall of Fame? And it's been a resounding. The question has been unanimous. The answer is yes, of course. Sweet Lou had better numbers than Roberto Alomar. That from John Rathburn, 85-77. And Alomar made the Hall of Fame. He sure did. Again, Alomar played for the Orioles. That helped him right there. I mean, there you go. East Coast bias, right? And I love what Senior J9H said in his reply. If Lou learned the backflip like Ozzie Smith, he'd have been in as well. I almost said Ozzie Guillen, but if he learned the Ozzie Smith backflip, he'd have been in. Kershey 2K said Sweet Lou should have been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago. Such a joke. And Ricky Kalinsky, 3385, a frequent contributor to the show, he said Sweet Lou not being in the Hall of Fame is a damn shame, to say the least. And I agree with him what he said. And it's true. His religious beliefs had something to do with it, I think. He didn't come out for the national anthem. He and Chet Lemon, if you remember. And I don't think this should have anything to do with it. But you got to understand who votes for the Hall of Fame. These writers that, with their vendettas. He wasn't a people person. He didn't do a lot of interviews. He wasn't big with the media back then. And I know, I don't have 100% knowledge, but I've got a pretty good hunch that had something to do with it. And that rubbed people the wrong way, and I agree with them. And he's asking, what about Mickey Lolich? Mickey pitched great in the World Series, no doubt about it. He had such a great run in the late 60s, early 70s for the Tigers. I just don't know if he should have been in the Hall of Fame, but I think his number should be retired by the Tigers. I'm with Ricky on that 100%. I mean, that Game 7 he pitched for the Tigers in 1968, 3 wins in that World Series. He definitely was one of the stars, if not the star, for the Tigers back then. And again, I go back to Kershey 2K, and he answered a question that we asked from a while back. He remembered going to a couple of Tiger games in the late 60s or early 70s. He got to see Al Kaline, Willie Horton, Aurelio Rodriguez, and others, and he said it was great. It absolutely was. Again, for those of you that don't know, my first game that I saw was in County Stadium back in 1974. Loved it. You know, the Tigers and the Brewers. Almost got to see a no-hitter. Woody Fryman went to the 8th inning with a no-hitter. Eduardo Rodriguez got an excuse-me base hit, and that was it. And Aurelio Rodriguez got the 2-run jack for the Tigers in a 2-0 win in front of about 9,000 fans. So, all right, it is that time again. It's the rubber match for the Tigers and the Orioles coming up today. Should Tarik Skubal start? That's one question. And question number 2, do you root for your team to tank? Have you ever done it? And are you doing it right now to make the decision easier for Scott Harris or for yourself as a Tiger fan? Would you rather see him tank so to make that decision easier to trade Skubal and maybe whoever else? Those are the questions I'd love to hear your answers on, and we'll go through them tomorrow. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Tigers Daily. Again, for those of you that haven't, we invite you to subscribe to the channel. If you're just checking us out for the first time, welcome. And we'd love to have you hit the subscribe button. This is episode 28. We're over 500 subscribers, and it's been so much fun here in the first month that we've done it. And the response with the views has been absolutely amazing. This is what we love to do. We love talking Tiger baseball. I'm a fan, and I want to just talk to you as a fan. And we'll enjoy it, the ups and the downs together of this Tiger season as we turn the page from July, coming up now to August, and the dog days and the trade deadline. That's going to do it for this edition of Tigers Daily. We'll see you tomorrow. Until then, Captain Lou saying keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, keep your minds open. So long.